crap. Good afternoon, friends. I'd like to welcome you today to What's in Tegan's Storage Locker. It's the show that dares to ask the question, just what is in my storage locker? The answer today, well, friend, it's comic books. It's always going to be comic books. I grab a pile of comic books from around my immediate surroundings with the understanding that most of them have been in a storage locker of mine at some point. We look through them here on the camera for your entertainment. There's a little cat who likes to make his presence known. I've been trying to get him less interested in the filming area for the last, I don't know, half hour or so here. Let's see if he's bored enough. So the first thing I want to do today is to point you towards the Patreon. If you like what I do, if you like my videos, if you like my writing, that's how you show your appreciation. Tell me you like it and you want to see more of it. So let's start off with a relatively recent comic book. I want to say this was from 2021. This was not cover dated, but dated December 2021, so it means it came out in fall of 2021. I think I paid 50 cents for this in a bin somewhere because even if I'm hopelessly behind on all the Krakoa stuff, and Krakoa itself is soon going to be in the bins, anything Phil Noto does, anything at all Phil Noto puts his name to, I will read. And especially if it's 50 cents, it'll come home with me. Who did this cover? That doesn't look like Phil Noto on the cover, however. That's Russell Dowderman with Matthew Wilson. He's someone who definitely came into his own during this period. Perhaps their most distinctive cover artist for this period. Gorgeous stuff. Can't say enough nice things about his work specifically. So, Marauders. This is issue 25 of a book that was launched right after the House of X stuff. One of the first titles that really came out of the gate, and my understanding was it really got a good following as well. I was still in my sabbatical at the time, so I was sort of putting together all those bits and pieces in hindsight. But this was, I want to say, this was the pirate book. This was the pirate book, right? That had the characters sailing the seas. Anyway, it had a bunch of my least favorite characters, like Emma Frost in it. I think I have recently spoken of my dislike for Emma Frost on this channel. Just the fact is, I've read her early stories. That's not a character who I ever really wanted to see redeemed in any way, shape, or form. Go back and read the Firestar limited series that they used to launch Firestar as a character in the Marvel Universe. And she burns down a horse barn with horses in it. I'm sorry. You murder a bunch of horses? There's a reason why that was a hanging offense. I'm never, ever going to sympathize with you as a character if that's your brand of villainy right there. And yet I can't argue and say that it's a new development. Certainly they've been pushing her out of the villain column and sort of into the hero column since the early 90s. It's one of the first things they really started to do once they got their feet under them after Claremont left. So you can't say it doesn't have its history. And I read Generation X. What are you doing? Well, someone heard me. Anyway, you've heard me go on about this before, right? Yes, you heard me. You heard me talk about Emma Frost and how it's a bad thing for the children to idolize a horse murderer. Anyway, don't get me started. You just did. All right, so I have no idea what's going on here. I paid 50 cents for a Phil Noto comic book. So let's look at what Phil Noto's up to here. What is this even selling? Cool enough. I think I've seen this ad before. And I guess if you don't scan this QR code, you have no idea what is being sold. Well, are we in your way? Okay. Also, Ogun to Shadowcat. There's no stronghold that you cannot simply walk into, no warrior you cannot humble. You are a living weapon. I will hone you into the finest warrior this world has ever seen. Kitty Pryde, jeez. Man, if there's two characters I could put in a space capsule and just send them into the oblivion. The one good thing Joss Whedon never did was send Kitty Pryde into space forever. And then they went and they undid it. It's like he went to all that trouble to write the character out of the books forever, and he had to go bring her back. And you're sitting there asking yourself, do you even like the X-Men? It's like, yeah, I love the X-Men. I hate most of the X-Men. I love reading about them. I think they're all terrible people. Emma Frost acquired the ship the Mercury through less than scrupulous means, of course, and now its previous owner, Eden Rixlow, has caught up to the Marauders and is demanding payment for his stolen property. Oh, that's a man's name? Eden? Oh, okay. But after getting a Krakoan payment of Mysterium in hand, there's no reason not to have his cake and eat it too, even if that meant ejecting the Marauders through the airlock in order to reclaim his ship. So the team here would be Emma Frost, Kate Pryde, Sebastian Shaw, who again is not a character. And to be fair, from what I understand, he was never really redeemed, and it was always a bit of a mistake to have him on Krakoa. Not so much of a mistake, I understand, as Mr. Sinister, but like I say, I'm getting ahead of myself. Bishop Pyro, who did receive a lot of development during this period, and he's going to be prominently featured in one of the, I think, the new X Factor book. And this Eden Rixlow character, who's got a big mustache. All right, so who do we have to blame for this? Gary Duggan, Gary or Jerry? I've never heard it out loud. Phil Noto, VC's Corey Petit on letters, Tom Muller design. The design's a big element of the books in this era. And here we are. These guys are, well, they just got thrown out of an airlock. That looks like it. And there's Iceman. But wait a minute. Iceman's not even on the Dramatis Personae. So, okay, there's one strike against you, comic. Iceman didn't flinch from the frigid void of space, nor did he even need oxygen. Within seconds of being thrown overboard, Iceman had caught his team in a cocoon of ice. Well, that's what we keep you around for, Bobby Drake. But just look at this. Look at these just random faces seen in strange angles. Gorgeous stuff. This is why I like Phil Noto. And when Phil Noto first came around, the band, I did not think he was a comic book artist. The first few times I saw his work, I did not think that he worked in comics. I thought he was a commercial artist who got cover work because he's simply too good at drawing. And his work also shows a couple shortcomings of people who come from a commercial art background into comics. There's a stiffness, sometimes with his compositions. But here, he's getting away from that. You can see he's working to vary panel sizes, vary the size of the characters in the panels, which sounds like a small thing, but it really isn't. You want to make sure that all your figures are dynamically spaced across the page, and one of the ways you do that is you have little pictures and big pictures. So you're constantly pulling. That's one of the devices that you use to pull the reader through your story. So they're using their mutant powers creatively to try and get out of this, which is one of the more interesting things of the Hickman era, was people really drilling down and trying to figure out how to use some of these characters' powers in more interesting ways than they've been used before. And Iceman, of course, you can't necessarily say that Iceman was necessarily the recipient of that development here because Iceman's been getting that development since the early 90s, alongside Emma Frost. Actually, if you go back to the issue of Uncanny where Emma Frost ends up in Bobby Drake's body, and she has a nervous breakdown, and one of the takeaways is, oh yeah, and plus Bobby isn't using his powers anywhere near what he could, and that was one of his plots through the 90s. And then when the clock ticked over to the 2000s, they just sort of forgot about that, and they went back to the, oh well, Bobby needs to develop his powers plot line. That was the only plot line they could do for Bobby for years, other than, he has a girlfriend who, strangely, he's not attracted to that much. And that they did that one a lot. Funny thing about that. See, I have no idea what's going on, but they built a little impromptu spaceship out of an ice cube. That's interesting. So Kitty leaves there you go, Killshaw. With inertia propelling her forward and with the White Queen guiding her, Kate once again does the impossible. See, I like that. Third-person captions. Doesn't use them throughout the book necessarily, but using them when necessary. I respect that. It definitely makes for an easier read. Writers who think they don't need to explain things happening in captions, it's a problem. Sometimes, you can go overboard, look at a 1960s Superman book, but you can go the opposite way, and then you wind up in Jonathan Hickman land, where a bunch of stuff's happening, but he doesn't feel like telling you what it is. So here's a guy who stole his shit back. He's getting drunk. Kate slips in. Serves you right. Trying to steal this band's ship. Always trying to steal something. They should just make her a villain. Just make her a burglar. That would be fine. I would be okay with that. Then she could show up and get, beat up by Spider-Man or something, and everyone would be happy. If your space kidneys are like human ones, you're going to piss blood for a while. I was trained to fight with a ninja. Boy, yes. Don't let us forget that for 2 seconds that you were trained by a ninja. My goodness. I read Kitty Pryde and Wolverine again just a few years ago, and they never quite managed to sell the idea to me. I'm sorry, they just didn't. I don't like the idea of everyone's favorite character just magically also being a super ninja. I'm sorry, man. Give her a limitation. She's good at computers and she's a ninja. Oh my goodness. Next, you're going to tell me that she's really good at taxes. Oh wait, that's Bobby Drake's thing because he is a CPA. I wonder, is he still licensed for that? It's probably been mentioned. I've gone ahead and dulled your pain reception. Oh, Siege. Why do you need all these ninja powers if you can just have the white... Is that the White Queen? I think it's the White Queen, not one of the cuckoos. If you can just have the White Queen dull your pain receptors, you don't need ninja skills. You can just break every bone in your body. Wake up fine on Krakoa. Demon Days ad. Man, I gotta say, I don't necessarily care for her style, but she's winning me over with the new Ultimate X-Men book. I quite like it. It's different. I'm not really on board for any of the other new Ultimate books, but the Ultimate X-Men, that is a book I will recommend. Oh, Giant Size Black Cat from the Jed MacKay Black Cat run. I liked this run of comics. I sat down a while back and I read through all of I think he did a couple Black Cat series recently in the last few years. Very fun stuff. She's someone who I'm definitely always happy to see. Just a great Great character. Anytime you put a woman stealing stuff in a comic book, I will buy. Oh, unless you do it with Kitty Pryde, in which case I will not buy it. But Black Cat, Catwoman, both. I have tons of Catwoman comics. All right, so he's got a headband to keep the telepaths out, and as soon as the headband's off, there you go. I've got full control of Rick Slow and the ship. I'm directing it to our location. Ow, what happened to Dr. Emma? Forgive me, Catherine. Rick Slow's very strong-willed and resisting me. I need to concentrate. I'll just bet you do, honey. I'll just bet you do. Jeez. So they land in the ship and they're getting drunk again. What do we do with Rick Slow? What I want to do and what I will do are two different things. Well, you're just leaving me on Araco? So he keeps his money, but they keep the ship. So he doesn't end up, he does end up feeling completely screwed, but at the same time, I guess that's a decent compromise, considering I think they're about to have a big civil war where everyone gets killed during Judgment Day. Is that the name of it? The one where the Celestial judges everyone and Thanos' grandpa kills everyone on Mars. It's all, I've read too many comic books. It all just completely is mushed into a gray ball in my head. All right, so how many of these characters were featured prominently in the story? Well, Iceman wasn't even here. Shaw, Bishop, and Pyro, they were in it for a couple panels. Mostly Emma Frost and Kitty Pryde, who are two characters who should, by all rights, want to kill each other every time they're on panel together. And I guess they are still kind of catty to each other. But you put those two in a book, you're practically assuring that I will dislike that book. All right, so that's 2021. And, of course, the sands of time have poured through the hourglass, and now Krakoa itself is just a dot in the rearview mirror, so to speak. All right, what do we have next here? All right, here's something fun. How about an issue of Green Lantern from April 1996? Because yes, even though I have a lot of issues with Ron Morris as a writer, I nevertheless didn't mind Kyle Rayner. I really liked Darryl Banks' art. This doesn't have Darryl Banks' art on it. It's a guest issue by Paul Peltier, who is another artist who I actually really liked as soon as I saw his stuff. And he definitely blossomed in the 2000s. I want to say he was one of those artists who really took off as a result of being part of the the cross-gen experiment, which was definitely a boondoggle in a lot of ways, but was at the same time a transformative event in the lives of many American comic book artists. There are many artists you can draw a straight line down the middle of their careers, before cross-gen and after cross-gen. The discipline of working in that environment really, it did help a number of people come into their own. Jimmy Chung, we've looked at him on this channel a few times before. He is definitely someone you can say there's a before cross-gen and an after cross-gen with Jimmy Chung. Before cross-gen, he wasn't the go-to guy for all of Marvel's crossovers. After cross-gen, he most definitely was. So, I don't know what's going on here. It's Kyle Rayner versus Wonder Woman, and this is the John Byrne drawn Wonder Woman. And I think I've said in the past, I like the John Byrne Wonder Woman. He did a few I think, kind of relatively simple emendations to the costume, basically to make it a little bit easier to draw. And they weren't bad changes by any means. The whole point of his take on the character was to do a more like high adventure action book with the character, which was, possibly something an idea whose time had come in the mid-90s. And so when she shows up in this period wearing this version of her costume, she's a little bit more physical. She's a little bit more of a fighter, so to speak. And that's something that would definitely continue after the turn of the century, certainly when they kept putting a sword in her hand. And I know there's a lot of Wonder Woman fans who don't like the sword. It makes sense. I never really saw a big problem with it, but I wasn't ever really that big of a Wonder Woman fan either. To judge from the fact that my favorite Wonder Woman just about is the John Byrne run, which, if you need a reason, if at this point in the show, hearing me rant about Kitty Pryde, Emma Frost, and Wonder Woman, by this point, well, you probably just think I'm a terrible misogynist. But what can I say? I don't mind Wonder Woman. I just think that Wonder Woman on her own tends to be kind of dry. Give me a really good creator, and maybe I'll check in. Oh, and this must be the same month as the pile of books we grabbed the other day, because here's a ad for that Batman appearance in Sovereign 7. Everyone's favorite. I looked at Sovereign 7 #1 on the TikTok a couple months ago. It's not a good book in hindsight, and it's a shame because Dwayne Turner, he did good work for it, but it wasn't a good career move. All right, so Ron Mars, as I said, Paul Peltier pencils with Romeo Tanghal, experienced hand, especially for DC stuff, inking. Oh, Linda Medley colors. Interesting. I don't remember knowing that Linda Medley was doing some work for higher coloring for DC at this point. That's fascinating, because Linda Medley, if you don't know, she is the cartoonist behind an excellent series called Castle Waiting. I believe it should all be in print from Fantagraphics. It's excellent fantasy. But I didn't know that she was doing just straight up, industrial, what are you doing? I didn't know, or if I knew off the top of my head, I mean, possibly I did know at some point since I bought this comic at the time. I didn't remember that she did coloring for DC. But you know that it's going to look pretty decent because of that. But it's also going to look pretty decent because it's got Paul Peltier, who I always thought was definitely someone who was coming into the business with a bit of a Byrne influence. What are you doing? You can see that influence in his faces, but he's a very solid artist otherwise. And here's a picture of Kyle holding it looks like a big mouth bass, is it? So I don't know why they're fighting. What are you doing? Someone has decided that he wants to be full of himself. So, yeah, basically, I don't know why, because this is part 3 of Hero Quest. I don't remember what Hero Quest was about. But Kyle's getting his tuchus handed to him by Wonder Woman, and that makes complete sense, that Wonder Woman would be able to, beat Kyle Rayner. Yeah, I must have grabbed these from the same pile as that other. Oh, I must have grabbed that from the same pile as the other one. Oh, one of these fun fellows here. I can't remember the last time I saw one, but used to see them all the time. You think that it's just a dog ear on a corner, but no, the paper didn't quite cut all the way, so nothing for it. What are you doing? He doesn't want to be a good cat. He wants to be a bad cat. No. So I get up from what I'm doing, and I go to play. And he just lays down, and he doesn't want to play. It doesn't make any sense. And he's going to come wandering back in here in a few seconds. Like, where did you go? It's like, well, you laid down. You didn't want to play anymore. Oh, my goodness. This is why I know I could never have the patience for actual children. You know, I demand consistency from the creatures in my surroundings. All right, so they're going at each other. Uh-oh. Ties her to an anchor. Throws her in the drink. He killed her. Wonder Woman's dead, and Green Lantern did it. No, he didn't. Oh, these jokers. The Dark Stars. My goodness. And another ad for the Rachel Pollack New Gods. Not necessarily remembered as Rachel Pollack's finest hour. She was stuck with some rather strange 90s art with, you know, Stefano Raphael here. I haven't read any of these runs in years. You know, the next person who would get the New Gods would be John Byrne, and that would definitely not be one of the better New Gods around. What are you doing? Well, I got up and I played with the little mister for a few minutes. Let's see if that does anything whatsoever. Here's another ad for Kingdom Come, which, as I believe I said on the last video, nice looking book that is a very flawed story. Definitely still worth looking through because Alex Ross is an extraordinarily talented artist. I don't remember this plot line at all. John Stewart with the Dark Stars? I don't remember that. Or him dating a blue babe with Vulcan ears in space. I don't remember any of that. And here we are back. Are you... Oh man, someone is just... As soon as I get ready to record, it's like someone sneaks into my house and puts a dropper of adrenaline right into his heart. That's the only thing that makes any sense to me. That's a nice spread there, with Kyle sitting on top of the bridge there, waiting for Wonder Woman to fish herself out. I was beginning to get worried. I stayed down long enough to make sure it was convincing, then swam over here underwater just to be safe. And there's Wonder Woman drying off with a towel. I'm sure that's really exciting for many readers. Oh, and that looks like some dastardly Kun's up to something. Oh yeah, Wonder Woman's gonna go handle the Kuns. You can't be here, you're dead. I'm not only not dead, I brought a friend. We can end this with violence if you surrender now. Yeah. Of course they're going to surrender. Come on, who wants to go up against Wonder Woman and Green Lantern? Well, Wonder Woman and a Green Lantern. Remember, he was the last Green Lantern, so no one ever really trained him how to do anything. And it kind of showed in his job performance. Oh, and we just read this one the other day. Like I say, I guess I took this pile from the same part of the box. Relaunching Batman and Robin adventures. Which, you know, anytime you see any of the old... Although you're not likely to see any of the Batman Adventures books anywhere near a discount bin. But definitely, anytime you get a chance to read any of the spin-off books they did for the TV shows in the 90s. High caliber across the board. Not necessarily something you can say about Marvel's TV tie-ins. They didn't quite approach them with the same philosophy. See, just nice action stuff with Wonder Woman taking out these losers with they're going to explode a bomb And then she stops it with the explosion with her body because she's Wonder Woman and she can do that. I'm here relatively unscathed, although it'll be a few hours before our friend here is up and about. Man, is that a sight, and not just for the obvious reasons. Okay, we get it, Kyle. We get it. Yes, Wonder Woman is attractive. I do believe the story has pressed that theme. You wanted me to teach you something, Green Lantern. When there's no other choice save battle, embrace it. Use all the power you have. Never hold back. That, and never underestimate a woman. I won't forget that one. Thanks. Every little bit helps. Yeah, because he's had the ring for 73 issues now, and he's still just figuring stuff out. I think if you've had your book for a couple years, you should probably know how things work at this point, but what do I know? I have to admit, it's nice to be back on the West Coast, for a little while at least. Oh, and he sees someone, so he's going to turn this page, and who is it? Is it going to be Jade? I'll bet it's going to be Jade, if I remember my Green Lantern. Oh, no, it's Donna, that's right. He was in a relationship with Donna Troy and Jade, not at the same time. It's not like that tennis movie that's out now, but I don't get it. He always seemed like kind of a schmuck to me. I bought his book because I liked space books, but I also didn't like DC space books anywhere near as Marvel space books, because the thing with DC space books is, at a very fundamental level, they're about the idea that the most interesting thing you can do in flying around the great wide universe is getting into an argument with your boss. And you look at Green Lantern, what does he do? He just gets in arguments with his bosses. That's all his stories. I don't recognize any of these names. Oh, Olaf Beamer. Olaf Beamer, he was a very familiar name in this period. Ron Mars, Paul Peltier, and Romeo Tangal obviously are doing everything within their abilities to make sure this book is quickly becoming one of the more entertaining series on the shelves. Also, Peltier had been drawing a bit of it by now then. I know Banks came back later. With each new issue, the synergy effect these three creative gentlemen create has been growing larger, and the tale called Hellfire and Ice was the superlative culmination of 3 more magnificent issues working on the same book. All right, so that's kind of what you're going to get from Olaf Beamer there. There's a great new evil in the universe that not even seasoned pros like Jon Stewart and Adam Strange can stand before it. How many lives will it consume before Green Lantern is able to enter the fray? And what will it cost Kyle to confront it? Hero Quest is over. For everyone's sake, let's hope GL has learned enough to save the galaxy. Maybe, I don't know. Ron Mars and Romeo Tangal welcome back our cosmos-spanning penciler Daryl Banks for an epic that leads into our stellar 75th. So hang on, everyone. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Signed, Eddie Berganza. Oh, well, there you go. Every rose has its thorn, so to speak. All right. And it's Malcolm McDowell trying to sell us Wing Commander 4, The Price of Freedom. One of the most eagerly awaited games of 1996. Well, there you go. All right, how are we doing on time here? Oh, we still got plenty of time. All right, here's a fun one. Here's The Amazing Spider-Man in Polish. I think I paid, again, another 50-cent job a while back, because even though I have the issues that are reprinted here, is like 50 cents for an issue of Spider-Man in Polish. Okay. I'm not going to even attempt to read Polish here, but this is a reprint of some of the Spectacular Spider-Man by James DeMatteis and Sal Buscema, which is some of the best Spider-Man ever. if you believe anything I ever say, believe me when I tell you that the Sal Buscema and J.M. DeMatteis, the Sal Buscema period, we've looked at some Sal Buscema Spectacular Spider-Man on this channel before, but especially the Sal Buscema and J.M. DeMatteis run is some of the best Spider-Man you're ever going to find. And it's where you can really see Sal Buscema come into his own as a penciler. So this is 1992, or these books were originally published in 1991, but I think, 1093, well, I guess that's, I want to say that means October 93, but I also don't know because I don't know how to read Polish. But you don't need to know how to read Polish to be able to read McFarlane is back. So they're pushing the adjectiveless Spider-Man in Torment, 3.7 milione copies. So that's not what's in here, though. This is, as I say, this is from the Spectacular Spider-Man. Stanley Przemysł. Okay, I said I wasn't going to try to read the Polish. Oh, back off. I don't know what he's saying there, but pop. There you go. That's an English sound effect. Scenarios, J.M. DeMatteis. Rizunek, Sal Buscema. Color, Bob Sharon. That's misspelled, I think. So I guess that would be coloring, because this Literativo, that must be some form of lettering, because it's Witold Mislevich. But anyway, the beauty of this run is it's so well drawn, it's so well told, that you don't need to be able to read a damn thing to be able to see. Like, okay, this is a tense, this starts off in the field of being a tense domestic drama. Like both Peter and Mary Jane and Liz Allen and her brother Mark Raxton, I think that's her brother, they're all suffering because the Green Goblin's back in some capacity. Oh, and that is a really creepy sequence there. Little Normie, he finds the pumpkin bomb, and then the pumpkin bomb knocks them all out. And then, in case you're wondering why Mark Raxton is solid gold, it's because he's also a mostly retired Spider-Man villain named the Molten Man, but he is, because he's related to Liz Allen, he's Spider-Man's sort of friend as much as anything else. And I still say Sal Buscema drew the very best Mary Jane. Of all the artists working on the books at that time, he was the one I think who really figured out how to sell them as a married couple, to draw them as people whose body language, the way they interacted with each other in space, was that of two people who were, intimately related by marriage. And you get that from his work in a way that you don't necessarily get from any of the artists working in the period who, admittedly, grown adult body language, that's not necessarily something that every Tom, Dick, and Harry coming down the pike from Marvel is going to be able to excel at. And yet, Sal Buscema, he can tell a whole story without even the benefit of a single word balloon in Polish. Oh, and not Norman, Harry, because Norman is still dead for at least a few more years. Harry's gone nuts. He thinks he's the Goblin again. So he's kidnapped his family. He's holding them hostage. Liz Allen, she knows her husband is beyond the bend and dangerous. I want to say this was the anniversary issue, like 189 or 190, the one with the hologram on the cover. Liz tries to escape, and she finds the doors all bricked up, because that's just Harry's gone round the bend. The Molten Man tries to step in. He gets a pumpkin bomb to the face. That doesn't really do anything to the Molten Man, but he's still no match for Harry, hopped up on the goblin formula there. So basically he's like, yeah, we're all going to sit down and we're going to have a nice, loving family dinner, even though I kidnapped you all and just, beat up your brother. He's losing it at this point. And here's Spider-Man, because he knows that he's got to go do something that he doesn't want to do. Look at how perfect this is. Look at how perfect this is. You can't tell me that he wasn't reading his Miller. That is definitely something that sticks out to me a great deal from this last little bit here where I went back and read all the Miller, is just how much Sal Buscema, I think, in a way that isn't necessarily appreciated, learned something from those years where Miller was the name to beat. Oh, just look at this. Look at how he's using space and dimension in the panel. This wonderful sequence of Spider-Man just creeping around an empty house. Oh, and there's a Jack-in-the-Box with a wielding an Uzi. Not going to get Spider-Man that easy. But here he is. Well, good thing that Harry just happened to have another seat at the table for his buddy Spider-Man. Sit down, enjoy your dinner. There's Spider-Man eating his steak. So yeah, this is a very tense family meal here. And look at Buscema's, I think that is a brush. It looks like a brush to me. I suppose it could be pen, but that's just because he's got so much control over it. What are you doing? All right, so yeah, Raxton, he's about had it here with Harry. He goes after Harry again. Harry knocks him back with some of the goblin sparkler things there, and Spider-Man, he's just standing there because Liz and Normie are right here, and if they go to war, the two people who don't have superpowers are going to get hurt. Of course, later on, I think they're both going to end up with symbiotes at various points because comic books, you can't just have an actual supporting cast. You have to give them all powers. And there's the Goblin Glider coming from behind to stab Spider-Man in the back. Brutal stuff. Because these guys, they're best friends. They've been through everything together. But Harry, he just can't escape his father's madness that keeps making him try to tear the world down around him. Chrome, crack, chuck. Well, look at this. Just look at this. He draws such a good Spider-Man. He's in my top 5 or 4 Spider-Man artists. I've written down that list. I don't remember how exactly I had it off the top of my head. I think it was Ditko 1, Romita 2, because of course Ditko and Romita number 2, 1 and 2. I want to say maybe Sal was my number 3. Gil Kane 4. I want to say that's my top 4. I want to say. Man, just look at this though. Look at this. So he manages to beat Harry, but ultimately that doesn't really solve the problem because the cops, they come, they put the special shackles on Harry, but they're leading him away, and he's just gloating because it's like, yeah, I know all your secrets, Spider-Man. I'm coming for you. Ha ha ha. That's why I hate Norman Osborn. I do not like Norman Osborn. I wish they'd never brought his character back. But as a Green Goblin, his son, I thought was much more effective because he had all those hooks in Spider-Man's life. He was Spider-Man's best friend. But and here's your subscription form for your Prenumerata Negrodi. Oh, and there's Dr. Kafka, who, again, what was I just saying? This wonderful supporting character who was an actual decent psychologist who tried to help the people in her care, and they turned her into the, I think they turned her into the Queen Goblin, something like that, because they already have a Goblin Queen, so that they made another type of Goblin girl for the Spider-Man books. But I really liked her character. I thought her character was really interesting, unique, definitely had the J.M. DeMatteis stamp as someone who took psychology seriously at a time when, like, in the Batman books and Dark Knight Returns, psychologists were just getting vilified at every turn. So yeah, he actually introduced one who wasn't a bad person at all. And this is after he's already been locked up. He's seeing a therapist, but this issue is about the Rhino. Look at that. Look at the Rhino's horn poking up through that fog there. Damn, that is a nice way to introduce that character. Yeah, this man, he's not doing too well. Like, you maybe need to call someone about that. Oh, and he starts saying Peter's name in the middle of a room with Spider-Man. Yeah, there you go. Look at that. There's your Rhino. Man. And they're dealing with the aftermath of last episode, or last issue. Somehow he's been shopping in Sandman's hand-me-downs here. Just look at how wonderful his ink line is. I could stare and look at Sal Buscema's ink line for years. It's just so gorgeous. Oh man, that's effective. Because, Harry's violence is something that, he got from his father, and he's passing on to his son. And that actually is the creepiest theme throughout all of DeMatteis's Spider-Man work, is especially with the Goblin characters, is basically just about how this violence is a plague that is passed down from generation to generation. And it's so insidious because of that. And that's very real. That's how violence works. Oh, such a good run of comic books. Oh, and there's your dude. There's the Rhino. He's after Peter. I don't think he knows why he's after Peter, but he's after Peter. But he throws Peter through a wall. He's like, well, that should take care of that problem, but what do you know, my friend? Yeah, because I think what happened was that one of the things that Harry did was he just sicked a bunch of the villains on Peter Parker, left them, for Spider-Man to clean up. And, because everything is real keyed up, his family is involved, Spider-Man gets a little more brutal, and he just goes all in on Rhino's face. And Rhino's like, hey man, this is just a job. What are you doing? Nothing personal. Pow, thud. There you go. And I guess this is an ad for what else is on sale. They got Punisher coming out, X-Men. Oh, and I guess it's always interesting to see the books that get slammed together for foreign anthology books. It looks like they have, they got some Rick Leonardi work in this X-Men title. Ghost Rider in this issue of Spider-Man. I could pretend that I know what they're talking about, but I do not. And subscribe. And whoever it was, whatever the company was that had the Polish rights to publish Spider-Man, they apparently were also had the Polish rights for DC as well. So you don't get to see Punisher and Superman on a lot of house ads together. So I have no idea what they're asking, but they're asking something. All right, what do we got going here? Maybe one more quick one. Okay, here I got one for you. All right, this is one of the weirdest comics, possibly the weirdest comic book I own. I got it in a random pack, and it's like an artifact from another universe, even more than the Spider-Man comic book from Poland. Race Warrior, America's racing comic book. Now, if you don't know, there's a whole cartooning ecosystem around cartoons in this country. You don't know what cartoons are? Go to Walmart. Look at the magazine rack and you'll see they still publish it. It is a magazine of comics that are just about cars and racing. So there is a whole alternate ecosystem of comic books just around car racing, which has absolutely no impact on the direct market whatsoever, except for the fact that every now and again, one shows up in a variety pack or something. This is from March 2000. Special Harold Belker feature. I have no idea who that is. A new edition every week. Now, the interesting thing about this comic book is that it is a giant soda ad. Who's doing this? So, Ezra Tucker, issue 4 cover art. So they get someone who likes drawing cars. Terry Collins writer. Gordon Purcell. He's someone who has some Marvel and DC credits. Chris Ivey. I don't know, I was mentioned Dwayne Turner a bit ago. Chris Ivey was his inker for many years. So here's racing stats. 7-Up ad. To quench my thirst after a hot day on the track, I always enjoy a cool, crisp, refreshing 7-Up. It's the only fuel I ever put inside the tie rod's engine. That's Ty Rod Roberts, okay? This is not ironic at all. This is a legitimate 7-Up ad, Valvoline ad, because of course it's car racing. It's all just covered in ads. So I guess you'd buy this at the arena, or possibly at the Walmart next to the cartoons. Like I say, I've never, ever seen an issue of Race Warrior. I mean, just that name alone. At a regular comic book store. Or even cartoons, for that matter. Sunkissed. He couldn't help but lead. He was driven by the power of Sunkissed. Now, I've seen a few car racing anime in recent years. Cool, fresh, clearly the look of a winner. But 7-Up doesn't even have any caffeine in it. How are you supposed to get behind the wheel of a car if you're not jammed out on caffeine? Now, again, I will say, not knowing anything about this corner of the cartooning world, car racing is a pretty merciless subject because most cartoonists, maybe not all cartoonists, but most cartoonists would rather not draw a car if they don't have to. And yet, what do you have to do here? You have to draw mini cars on mini pages. I don't know. Oh, I don't know what's going on here. This racer, who I think is a real person, he's flirting with the race manager person. I don't know. I'm not going to try to explain what's happening in this comic book. I'm not. That would require more investment than I'm willing to give. So he's talking about, this car racer is talking about his origin. With me as a man I wouldn't want to run into on the Santa Monica Freeway. I stick to the side streets and service roads, Jameson. The highways in California are much too slow for me. So he's talking about growing up, dyslexic, getting into racing cars, standard. Oh, when he has a accident, he has to go through painful rehab, pretty standard athlete stuff. What about the loss of revenues for the team and yourselves due to Dr. Raxon's obsession with developing a cyber technology racing? You think we split over money? I've earned every dollar I've ever been paid by using my skill behind the wheel. What Raxon did with his share is his concern, not mine. Maybe it isn't a real, I don't know. I know nothing about car racing whatsoever. Oh, and here's some spunky kids. Of course. Just now I'm watching an anime on with anime girls racing high-tech future cars in the near future. Actually, it's kind of fun. I'm not going to lie. That's how I can handle it. I can handle car racing if you've got like anime girls or something doing it. Actual people racing cars, I'm not going to have too much interest for that. But here's that Harold Belker fellow. A custom comics real-life racing feature by Claire B. Lang. Maybe there's a fictional race. I don't know. Hollywood's hottest young motion picture vehicle creator. If cool has a trademark, it's Harold Belker. The 6-foot, 240-pound world-renowned automotive designer commissioned to design the unique race, medic, and street vehicles in the Race Warrior comic series. Why did they go for that name? The 38-year-old German designer just got back from a week of helicopter snowboarding in Canada. Nice word if you can get it. He drives a 1999 Porsche Boxster, which he bought because one of his close buddies designed it. How cool is that? Below freezing, and we're just getting started. So apparently this guy does design work for the movies. That's not a bad gig, I guess. Like I say, most cartoonists, most artists in general would rather not draw a car, except for people who really want to draw cars. And you can always tell, Gunsmith Cats. That guy really likes driving cars, and drawing cars, for that matter, and Hawaiian Punch. One more lap to go. It was time to punch it. So yes, this is without a doubt one of the weirder comics in my collection. He drank his A&W like he raced his car, with passion. I don't see too many of those race guys drinking pop in the car, though. Sunkissed Ford Thunderbird. Cyber engine ready light. Engine cyber energy level. Engine tachometer. Oil pressure in pounds. Engine temperature. Paddle shifter up. Paddle shifter down. And there's a Sunkissed drink button, too. That seems like that's the one that you would hit when you wanted to, hit the turn indicator. Do race cars have to use turn indicators? I don't know. Mark Martin is the race warrior. Jesus, could we just not use that name? it's a bad name for a comic book unless you really want to make it a thing, in which case, like I say, I didn't really pay anything. This was in a grab bag. Because grab bags are fun. Everyone likes grab bags. And then you find weird stuff that you would not otherwise be exposed to. All right, so that's a fun grab bag of comics we looked at today. So, check out the Patreon. If you like what I do, if you like the show, that's how you show your appreciation. Please tell everyone you know about the show. Spread the word so that, we can pump those numbers up. I got a TikTok and Instagram channel. I post the same reviews on both platforms every day. Daily comic book reviews. Fun stuff if you like my comic book reviews. Speaking of which, I got a podcast with Claire Napier. It's called Utter Madness. We talk about Top Cow Comics. That's Witchblade, The Darkness, Mark Silvestri, Michael Turner, all that good stuff. We're on Spotify, Patreon, YouTube, SoundCloud, all that stuff. And usually every other week, I got something up on the Comics Journal website. Just anywhere you look, there I am. I'm just full of activity. You might even say boisterous. Anyway, have a great day. Take care of yourself. Take care of the world. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to small children. Be kind to animals. And please, just have a pleasant day.